Nearly 200 animals seized from an Airway Heights kennel. Tonight we're learning more about the conditions inside that made officers take action.
We just have to get through one more cold morning, and then we've got warmer temperatures and snow in the forecast.
Investing in resources to get people off of the streets. And this bill does not address that.
And later, a new law could make camping in Spokane legal once again. We're hearing reaction from both sides tonight.
KREM 2 News at 4 begins now with Whitney Ward and Jeremy Legoo.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. Now at 4, we are learning more about the conditions inside an Airway Heights kennel that forced Scripps to seize 171 animals. KREM 2's Christian Garza is live at Scripps tonight. And Christian, you obtained court documents about this case. What have you learned so far?
Yeah, according to court documents, Scripps has been investigating wild wolf kennels for months after a complaint last year kick-started this investigation that led to the business's license being suspended after multiple failed inspections.
Welcome back here on day 3 of weather impact alert? Day 4? I'm losing track. That's what I thought. Day 3. And we have one more, you said. One
more cold morning, and then we turn a corner. I'm telling you, 30 degrees is going to feel balmy after going through this. And then next week we're up near 40, so it's a big turnaround.
And snow first.
Yes. I often get interesting weather questions, and I think it's just because science is so interesting. And sometimes you hear someone explain something scientifically or pseudo-scientifically, and it becomes a little bit easier to believe them if you don't know what's going on. It doesn't get too cold to snow. The weather pattern that favors cold is just not one that necessarily favors snow. Two different things. So as snow returns to the forecast, our temperatures warm up and big time by next week. We have one more cold morning in store. Temperatures are going to be down near 0, and our overnight lows are going to have us feeling like we're 5 to 15 degrees below 0, and that bitter cold then departs. One more morning of cold weather advisories, but notice they now stretch from places like say Ritzville up into Spokane, down across the Pleisse, up to the Canadian border, over on the west side. Montana starting to get trimmed out of them just a little because you're trending much closer to what is average or normal for this time of year. For us, it's another night with temps back down near 0. Notice they're above 0 tomorrow morning, just slightly above, but we have a little bit of wind. That little bit of wind will have them feeling as cold as they have been the past couple of days. That wind is also what starts to warm us up. By tomorrow afternoon, mid to upper 20s. That means we spend most of our day in the 20s. It is going to feel much different, but we do trade some of that sunshine for a lot more cloud cover. That cold takes over, but here's our next storm. That's going to make its way toward us, and it's moving in more zonally, west to east, but it's going to hit a little bit farther to the south, and when that happens, we will wind up seeing some of those impacts from this storm. Starts tomorrow evening. Then we get our second wave early Friday morning, and I think it has a little bit of an impact on the morning commute. Then our third wave out of all this same storm arrives Friday afternoon and takes us through the evening commute. All said and done, we're talking 1 to 2 inches, 2 to 3 in Coeur d'Alene, 2 to 3 in St. Mary's. It's going to be a little more snow than no, it's just going to have more impacts than those numbers suggest. Reason being, we are so incredibly cold, and the ground is so incredibly cold that as soon as that snow falls, it sticks, it becomes slippery, and it has a bigger impact than it otherwise would if we weren't as cold as we have been.
All right. Good reminder, Jeremy. Thank you. One group really feeling the cold right now is ranchers. KREM 2's Cody Proctor traveled to Chewelah to show us why this time of year is especially challenging.
I'm at Hagen Cattle and Hay just outside of Chewelah, and right now they're in the middle of their calving season, a time when their calves are born. Now, what's already a tough job can be even tougher with this drop in temperatures.
It's one of the busiest times of the year for Matt Hagen and his family. Calving season, a time for new life and new joys at Hagen Cattle and Hay. For decades, the family's had dozens of calves born at the ranch every late winter, and this year's no exception.
The 2 big months are January, February. So that is by far the largest percentage. I'd say 95% are calved out then, and then usually there's a couple in early March.
The family has plenty of tools to help them out, including blankets, cameras, and a calf warmer.
Call that the Easy Bake Oven. That is a chamber that the calves can go into that has a heater.
But this stretch of below freezing temperatures causing concerns for the survival of their newborn calves.
They come out wet, and if they don't get taken care of soon, whether it's the mom or us or both, they are in for a lot of trouble when it gets really cold.
While a bright sunny day's not much of an issue, Hagen says the overnight temperatures are a different story.
Tonight it's supposed to get either negative or 0 for sure if you're hours pushing it. So 1 hour's pushing it. If there gets to be winds, you're definitely under an hour.
Jeff Oliveras, a clinical assistant professor at WSU Veterinary Teaching Hospital, agrees.
And especially in these temperatures that are sub-zero that we're experiencing, the minutes could make a difference in these calves' lives.
So the family will keep working this calving season. And while it's hard work that never seems to quite end, Hagen says it's all worth it.
If you come out and you see the animals just kind of hanging out, pretty mellow and content, and everyone's healthy, that makes you feel good. That makes it worth all this sacrifice and time and energy and money that you put into it.
Now, once they get past this calving season, Hagen also says they're concerned about later this year. Because of how mild this winter has been, there's now concerns in the future about drought. In Chewelah, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
Now, the Pacific Northwest is also known for its apples, but are they in danger? When we come back, we find out the climate risk facing our iconic crop and how scientists are working to save them. And it is time to vote. The Inlander's Best of Readers poll is now open, and it's time to celebrate all the people and places that make the Inland Northwest so great. And there are a ton of different categories, including Best TV Anchor, Weathercaster, and Sports Anchor. We would love your vote if you love watching KREM 2 News. Those polls will stay open until Tuesday, February 18th. You can vote right now through that link at the bottom of your screen. Washington is known for its apples, but climate change may be putting our growing areas at risk. Libby Dowsett with our Environment Northwest team is finding out what's going wrong and where.
Washington State researchers tell us the Yakima Valley, right in the middle of the state, is one of the most at-risk apple growing areas in the country, ahead of Michigan and New York. They say Yakima County, the country's largest apple producer, is facing a number of challenges tied to the climate, from frost damage to sun-scorched apples.
In eastern Washington, where a lot of the fresh apples are grown in the United States, we regularly face sunburn pressure that causes a decrease in fruit quality and losses to apples.
WSU Associate Professors Lee Kalsitz and Deepti Singh explain how growers are adapting to the climate changes.
Growers will use netting over top of their orchards, or they might use evaporative cooling, which is applying water over top of the apples and allowing that water to evaporate. That cools the fruit and keeps it from getting sunburn.
Warmer nighttime temperatures in the fall or sudden cold snaps. Researchers are basing their findings on 40 years of climate data.
And what we've shown is that there are changes in these climate conditions that are happening that have the potential to have harmful impacts on everything from production to the growth of and then yields of apples to even the quality of the ultimate product, including like the color as well as the sweetness of these.
Is this one good? It's more red.
With temperatures expected to only increase, Kalsitz is leading a team backed by a nearly $7 million government grant to study climate effects on apples and pears. He said the issues are complex because the trees are perennials, which grow for many seasons.
There can be impacts at all 4 seasons that can impact fruit productivity and quality, and we're seeing those changes in risk happening in all 4 of those seasons.
And researchers say Washington is an ideal place for a case study on protecting apples and pears because the state's summers get so hot. They say if they can figure out climate change solutions in Washington, those same ideas will most likely work in other areas as well. Now, still ahead tonight at 4:30, are some Washington police officers at risk of being shot by their own handgun without anyone pulling the trigger? Tonight, there is an intense new scrutiny on a popular police gun. We'll show you why.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now.
And an American school teacher wrongfully detained in Russia is now back on U.S. soil. We'll hear from Mark Fogel tonight.
Grocery stores in some places are limiting the amount of eggs you can buy.
We visit the state that produces more eggs than anywhere else to find out why. Tonight on the CBS Evening News.
KREM 2 News at 4 begins now.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on KREM 2 News at 4:30. I'm Whitney Ward. Tonight we are continuing our weather impact alert at this hour. The prolonged Arctic cold blast creating dangerous conditions across the Northwest. We're turning back to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo, as we track the impact to you tonight. Jeremy?
Well, when it comes to our temperatures this afternoon, they moderated quite nicely. But believe it or not, 20 degrees still puts us more than 5 degrees below the seasonal norm. Every part of the inland Northwest, I just went through a bunch of numbers, more than 5 degrees below the seasonal norm for your low temperature. Our high temperatures were 5 degrees colder than our average low temperature. For us in Spokane, almost 8 degrees colder. Overnight, we are going to get cold once again. However, our temperatures trend slightly warmer ambiently. Our ambient temps will be a few degrees warmer than where they've been these past few nights. There is going to be wind, and that wind means it feels every bit as cold as it has the past few days. For that reason, we have